What's the cost of a right? I hear all the time people advocating for various rights for various entities, although they never actually stop to discuss the responsibilities that such entities would accept upon themselves should they be granted such rights. It's an old drum that I've been beating on for a long time, but today I'm going to beat to the rhythm of abortion. Now, abortion is a contentious and controversial issue. While I'm going to be talking about abortion, I'm really talking about family law in Canada, and not specifically about the moral rightness or wrongness of abortion. For the record, I'm vehemently pro-choice. That is, I'm a fervent supporter of women's reproductive rights. I don't think abortion is immoral. I never have. As far as I'm concerned, there's no point within the pregnancy when a woman is no longer able to make a decision to terminate the fetus. Now, that's the basic assumption of this video, along with one other assumption that I'm going to make clear to you later. That's what I mean when I say that this video is about abortion, but it's not really about abortion. I won't be defending my pro-choice position here. I'll be glad to on another video, on another time, or in the comments section. But for now, I'm just going to assume it. You might at this point be shaking your head. You might at this point be protesting that abortion involves childbirth, and that childbirth, natural childbirth at least, involves two people. Therefore, the decision must fall to them as a couple. I don't think that's very fair, because there's one party in this couple that bears all the strain. It's the woman that suffers the biological and physiological changes as a result of pregnancy. Hers is all the risk. Hers is all the pain and all the scars. So it doesn't make sense that they both decide. I'm all for agreement whenever it's possible, but when there is no agreement, which I believe is the case most of the time, the woman should be making the decision. Now, this isn't a radical proposition. It's pretty much your standard pro-choice position. For the record, I think it's the most sensible, moral, logical, and rational position on the subject, provided one doesn't believe that the fetus is a person. But like I said, this video isn't about abortion per se. What it is about is family. It's about who gets to form a family and how families are made. Now, at the center of this, there's a problem with power. I can show you that problem through two examples. It doesn't make any sense to punish your dog because your pizza came late. It's equally insipid to blame your mechanic because your cell phone bill arrived late, or because you were overcharged. Power, which I will assume to mean the ability to exercise choice in a situation, is the reason these examples are so ludicrous. Neither your dog nor your mechanic have any power over things like your pizza or your cell phone, respectively. So it makes no sense to hold them accountable. Now, let me tell you a little story that involves a young man and a young girl, but unfortunately doesn't involve everlasting love. I have a friend, let's say he's called Mike. Mike is 32 years old now, and 5 years ago, Mike and a bunch of his friends set out to an idyllic little cottage by a lake. It was summer. It's a bunch of 20-some-year-olds, lots of alcohol, lots of drugs, and mixed company. So I think you pretty much figured out how things have unfolded since then. Mike and his friends and everybody else got drunk, and as the night wore on, they all began pairing off. Mike paired off with this nice girl he'd met at this thing called Crystal. Mike and Crystal had a one-night stand and never communicated with each other for 2 months. 2 months after this, Crystal calls Mike and tells him that she's pregnant. Mike reacted in the same way that I think any student would have reacted had he been told that the girl he just had sex with is pregnant. He went to her and he explained to her that he was a student, he didn't have money, and that he wasn't ready to be a father. He suggested an abortion, and Crystal refused. Once Crystal had the child, Mike suddenly began to be responsible for certain things that he wasn't responsible for before. Now, it's been 5 years, and Mike's a young professional now. Yet he's saddled with the burden of funding the maintenance of this child that he never wanted. This is the guy that you hear about. The guy that's described by his failing to live up to his so-called responsibilities. Let me ask you a question. If the decision to have an abortion or not lies solely in the hands of the woman, and if power, i.e. the ability to make choices, renders the powerful responsible for these choices, then shouldn't men be allowed to opt out? To choose not to be a father, deadbeat or otherwise? The way current laws are structured, abortion is an option, but only if the woman agrees. If she doesn't, then the child is brought to term and both parents are made responsible. It doesn't matter whether or not they're still together. It doesn't matter whether or not the man in question wants to be a father. It doesn't matter whether or not he can be. All across the country, men are being dragged kicking and screaming into fatherhood. And I don't think it's fair. A woman, because of the way abortion laws work in Canada, can never be forced into paternity. And as I said before, I think this is appropriate. But since our society gives women all the power in deciding whether or not a conception is brought to term, shouldn't it also be women who bear all the responsibility from the exercise of that power?